night to the residents of Lowlands and the surrounding districts. A pleasure to be here. Let me welcome comrades and friends of the Democratic Labour Party. Let me welcome those who are following us on social media, the various platforms, and the World Wide Web. A pleasure to talk to you. January the 19th, and I'm here on the behalf of Dr. David Eswick, the re-election of Dr. David Eswick. Dr. David Eswick, without a doubt, has served the community, the constituents of St. Philip West, focused and committed. His record of representation cannot be questioned. There is no doubt about that. So on January the 19th, we, within the Democratic Labour Party, are asking for the support of the residents of Lowlands, Terrace and Development. Like everything else, come January the 19th, decisions have to be made in Barbados. Decisions have to be made. We cannot allow this country to be heading in a direction where our social, financial, economic fabric is deteriorating, and deteriorating at a pace that makes us uncomfortable. And somebody has to pull the handbrake. In 2018, my friends, so we are going to have a conversation. I have been having a conversation with the people of St. Philip West at all of these meetings. I am not here to speak about finance and economics. If I wanted to deliver finance and economics and confuse your minds, I can do it efficiently and eloquently. I can do it. But I'm not here about that. I am here because I want to have this conversation that you can reflect and you can think. And in doing so, you would be able to make an informed decision why you should vote for Dr. David Eswick. And in voting for Dr. David Eswick, you vote for the Democratic Labour Party. And in voting for the Democratic Labour Party, you are voting for an administration that can manage the affairs of this country. Many of us tonight, we are baffled. We have hard choices. The Prime Minister says that there are choices to be made after the election. Why it is that those choices cannot be told to the people of Barbados. The Barbados Labour Party came to all of us, as well as you, the residents in this area, with a covenant of hope. That was their anthem. That was their theme. And based on that covenant of hope that they indicated to the people of Barbados that they had all of the answers to the solutions and the challenges that we face. In addition, the government at the time managed and was managing an economy led by Faridel Jerome Stewart, former Prime Minister, Mr. Christopher Sinclair, the Finance Minister, And despite the economic challenges that we had, we sacrificed growth, because you could have easily, based on the recession that we face, and they are now calling it the recession of great magnitude. And the Barbados Labour Party came to you, and you gave them a mandate of 30 seats to 0, because we were led to believe that the Democratic Labour Party, under the leadership of Faradell Jerome Stewart, supported by his finance minister, as well as his cabinet ministers, were the worst thing that happened to Barbados. People were led to believe that we were inefficient, that we knew nothing about managing a country. And we gave, as I said before, the Barbados Labour Party 30 seats. So what we did is we removed we allowed the current Prime Minister that was sitting in the pew, not in the pulpit, was sitting in the pew with the congregation. And we made the current Prime Minister believe that she was the Alpha and the Omega, that she had all of the answers, that she was this brilliant, that she had the pedigree to be the Prime Minister of Barbados, and that she was born to be a leader. That is what we did. But now, having moved from the pew to the pulpit, and we robed her, or says we robed her, we are having a conversation. You know, political speeches. I want you to ponder and think. And we robed her with 30 seats. Made her chairman of the board. Supported by 29 directors. And having took possession of the chairmanship and the office of CEO and the office of Prime Minister, in 3 years, we have seen that this leadership that we thought was so brilliant, with a lot of catchphrases, we are in this together. Give me the vote and watch me. We is we. I have your back. I have this one. In all of these catchphrases, we have seen nothing more than a wolf in sheep clothing. A wolf in sheep clothing, nothing more than fluff. No more brilliant than anybody else. But we were led to believe that. So they came to you Barbadians and said that the Democratic Labour Party was the worst thing. And they got the mandate. Now we are into 2022. 3 years. 3 years into a mandate of 5 years. And within those 3 years, the Barbados Labour Party wasted ample time, wasted quality time, where they had time to restructure the economy. They had time to put a plan in place for economic growth. But now they want to blame COVID for everything. But there is a pre-COVID and a post-COVID, my friends. So they want to blame and continue to blame the DLP along with COVID. So giving them the mandate, a full mandate to manage this country, we are now faced with an election within 3 years. And the grounds for that election is that tough decisions must be made. And not only tough decisions must be made, that the country is divided. Now come on, people. That is why I said we're going to talk. I am talking. A government was given 30 seats, but yet a country divided. Who divided the country? For 3 years, they sang a song called The Lost Decade. I want you to remember that. That's why I said we're having a conversation. They sang a song called The Lost Decade. That nothing was done in Barbados for 10 years. But I want us, in reflecting and pondering about the lost decade, as they have put it, that the Democratic Labour Party, in its foresight, rebuilt the Besto Santos lab ahead of Ebola. When we found out that a country like Barbados, that gained its independence in 1966, did not have what we call a world-class lab. All of those years, we had an ordinary lab, a lab like secondary school. And Dr. David Eswick, who was then Minister of Agriculture, along with John Boyce, who was Minister of Health, decided that we were going to build the Besto Santos lab for the benefit of Barbadians. And that's why I said we're going to talk, because we're going to talk about the lost decade. There's no more lost decade to sing about now, because the choir is split. The choir split. So, understanding that we built the lab, the same Prime Minister, along with her ministers, along with help from the Barbados Workers Union, along with help from the National Union of Public Workers, along with help from the Union of Teachers, assisted by Mary Redmond, lined Colomorock, lined the street of Colomorock with the students of St. Winifred's, with the students of Ursuline Convent, with the students of St. Paul's, in protest of the Besto Santos lab. And we built that lab on the premise that in case Barbados had an unforeseen circumstance, we would be able to do the testing without having to send blood samples and tissue samples to Florida as well as to Trinidad. All these years we did not have a sophisticated lab. So we went ahead, and in the face of the criticisms, they claimed that the money was being stolen. As Bajan said, we were thieving the money. That the contractors had bribed cabinet. And we don't need the lab should not be there. But now you are hearing the praises of the Besto Santos lab. And as a result of preparing for an unforeseen circumstance, we had the Ebola. Had it not for the Besto Santos lab and the foresight of the calm hands and the level head of the Prime Minister, tell us what would happen today. Then we had SARS, and now we have COVID. In addition, we built the Blackman and Gollop School, a multi-purpose facility, as well as a new school meal center, a center that can prepare 35,000 meals in case we had a hurricane, in case we had an earthquake. That center is equipped to produce 35,000 meals a day. And we went ahead again in the face of criticism, in the face of corruption, accusing us of corruption. Had it not for the Blackman and Gollop School, a multi-purpose facility, tell me, had it not for the school meal center that can prepare 35,000 meals, tell me what would have happened to Barbados in the face of COVID. But we talk about a lost decade. There's no longer a lost decade, because the anthem, they had a choir of 30 persons. Now the anthem, and they had an anthem, but now the choir is split in two. You have 17 on one side, led by George Payne singing the alto, And you have 13 on the other side singing the bass, led by Prime Minister Mayor Motley. So the choir now split. So in attempt to say to Barbadians that the country is divided, we are calling an election in the midst of COVID. When the same Prime Minister, after the St. George by-election, said to the people of Barbados and you to the residents of Lowlands that she would never call an election again in the midst of COVID. Come on, people. That is why I said we're having a conversation. I am going to talk. This is the same Prime Minister that said, no, I would not call another election in the midst of COVID and risk the health and lives of Barbadians. But as I said, let us focus, because this country, in 3 years, was being managed on deceit, on deception. 5 principles. First principle, deceit. Second principle, deception. Third principle, communication, propaganda. Fourth principle, lies. And the fifth principle, borrowed money. That is what we were running the country on. And tonight, as I speak, there are many Barbadians, including you, the residents of Lowland, under pressure, have to determine every month what bill you're going to pay, whether you're going to pay the water bill or the light bill, whether you're going to pay the mortgage on the house and forsake paying the insurance or the monthly installments on the car. How you're going to pay for your children overseas. That is the type of challenges, that is the monster that has been created in Barbados. And I'm going to repeat those principles. The principle of deceit, the principle of deception, the principle of communication, propaganda, the principle of borrowing money, and the principle of lies. And all you have to do is to look at the manifesto, compare the 2018 manifesto with the 2022 manifesto, and all you're going to see is that they change some words, change up the words, reproduce the same manifesto, or examine the throne speech that was delivered to Barbadians, and you would see. You would read for yourself. But in an attempt, when they say to us, the same Prime Minister, when the first case of COVID struck Barbados in May of 2020, the Prime Minister held a press conference and said that as a result of the hard work of the frontline workers, the hard work of the nurses, the hard work of the policemen, the hard work of the defense force soldiers, the hard work of the sanitation workers, the hard work of those who work at the National Assistance Board, those persons who work in the elderly homes, as a result of putting the risk of their children, the grandchildren, the husbands, the boyfriends, you name it, that they were going to be paid a hazard allowance and overtime. Here we are in 2022, and the nurses and the other healthcare workers had to strike and march for what they believe is the correct thing to do. But you couldn't find, you have a government, my people, that could not find $250 to pay as hazard pay. You have a government that cannot find the money to pay overtime, but you are going to find the money under what you call a professional expense, professional fees. And I'm going to explain it to you. That's why I said we're having a conversation. Every Prime Minister office must have an expense account. Every Prime Minister, you cannot run an office on water, and it is expected that you have an expense account. You have, in this current administration, the current Prime Minister's office, an account that they're entitled professional fees. And you are asking yourself why it is that all of these high-paid professionals are attached to the Ministry of Finance. Ask yourself, how comes that whenever the Prime Minister hires a professional, they are attached to the Ministry of Finance? Every one of them. It is because that the Prime Minister now has under her head, and that is how you put it in the estimates. You call it a head. $1,296,000. That is what she has under her heading in the estimates. And my friends, I can tell you, because it is here, you have to know what to look for. So the Prime Minister have $1,296,000 under item 226 called professional fees. That is why she can find the money to pay David Ellis. That is why she can find the money to pay Justin Ram. That is why she can find the money to put Pat Paris in the Prime Minister's office. That is why she can find the money to pay Kevin Greenwich. That is why she can find the money to pay Avinash Prasad. That is why she can find the money to pay Clyde Maskell. It is because of $1,296,000 she has in an account they have under a title called professional fees. It is here. And you know what? When that money goes, she can go back to Parliament and ask for more under a title called a fancy name. When you hear the Prime Minister says, oh, I'm going for a supplementary. A supplementary is mean that he's just going for more money. I'm going for more money. And that is why she can find the money. But what? You can find the money to pay the high cost professionals, but you cannot find $250 to pay what you call the frontline workers. And many of these high paid professionals came after COVID, came after the frontline workers, but we can't find it. And then you hear, Mayor cares. I have this one. I got you covered. We is we. But let me say something to you tonight, that they have created a monster in Barbados. They have created a monster. And what we are going to do on January the 19th, we are going to behead that monster.
Oh, Lord.
Come January the 19th, we are not going to ask her and the cabinet to behead it. We are going to behead the monster that we now face. And that is the monster. They came to us. You could believe that in this day and age you can hear a Prime Minister and her cabinet saying to you that they are going to reduce food prices once re-elected. Come on, people. Come on, residents of Lowlands. Re-elect us and we are going to reduce food prices. Well, let me give you, that's why I said we having a conversation. Re-elect us. And Kerry Simmons is saying we're going to remove the cost of freight. Why you didn't do it in 2018, between 2018 and now? You could imagine these are the type of things that they place in a manifesto. Do you remember between 2000 and between 2008 and 2018, that the world, that we oil prices increased to $200 a barrel under a Democratic Labour Party. Oil was at $45 a barrel. It moved from $45 to $200 a barrel. And the Prime Minister, along with his Finance Minister, we made a decision, and I was part of that decision making, all of the members of Cabinet, that we were going to absorb the losses. And we were not going to pass the losses on to Barbadians. Don't matter how difficult it was. We said we were going to absorb the losses. And the Barbados Labour Party, day after day, said to Barbadians that we were going to bankrupt the country because of our action, that we were going to bankrupt BNOC. I want you to remember that. The conversation we are having. And as a result, you have BNOC today still And before we demit office, we had written off the $90 million. We generated the revenue and we structured the $90 million that we incurred as a result of rising oil prices. We absorbed it, as Beatrice was saying, we swallowed it. That's what we did. And this government, they came. I want you to remember that in the face of rising oil prices again, we also absorbed the increase in food prices, the cost that came through the port. The Prime Minister said, we are going to absorb it, no matter how painful it is to government. We are not going to pass on the increase in food prices to Barbadians. My friends, between 2008 and 2018, a price of a tin of corned beef in Barbados was $1.89, even in the face of rising oil prices. When we demit office, a price of a tin of corned beef was $1.89. Depends on what brand you wanted and where you shop. Between 2018 and 2022, before COVID struck, before the first case of COVID was reported in 2020, within a 2-year time frame, the price of a tin of corned beef moved from $1.89 to $3.25. The price of a tuna, 1 tin of tuna, moved from 59 cents to $1.25. Here we are, after COVID, and now the same price of a tin of corned beef is $7.59, and a tin of tuna is $3.25, depends on where you shop. And this is the government that is now coming to you saying that once re-elected, they are going to reduce the food prices. They have a number of policies outlined to reduce the cost of living. Come on. This is the government. So Bajans now tonight have to struggle. When we were accused of bankrupting the country, we said that we were not going to go to the IMF unless it was absolutely necessary. That is what we said. That is what the Prime Minister said over and over again to Barbadians. That we were not going to go to the IMF unless it was absolutely necessary. We said that we were not going to borrow to prop up the foreign reserves. And the Barbados Labour Party, headed by the current Prime Minister, ran up and down this country, aided and abetted by the private sector and some members of the Economic Society, as well as the Accountants Association of Barbados, and made Barbados believe that the foreign reserves was in a crisis, and we were on a precipice for going over. That is what they say to Barbadians. That is what they say. That we were at the edge of the cliff. And I want to remind you tonight that between 2015 and 2018, when the communication propaganda on the foreign reserve started, at no time was there a shortage of diesel. At no time was there a shortage of kerosene. At no time was there a shortage of gasoline. At no time was there a shortage of natural gas in this country. But yet, we were told that the foreign reserves were at its worst. That is what we were told. There were no problems in the balance of payments. I am saying to you tonight that anytime you have a problem with your foreign reserves, it must show up in the balance of payments. But I'm not here to talk finance and economics tonight. I'm going to have a basic conversation. But I just want you to know that at no time was there a shortage of U.S. currency. Bajans traveled as they please. In fact, the Democratic Labour Party, we increased the amount of U.S. dollars that you can get from the bank to travel and do shopping. We moved it from 5,000 to 10,000 U.S. in the face of what they were saying, a foreign reserve crisis. And to date. So now we have all the foreign reserves we want, and we have the IMF, and we have the borrowed money. We have the borrowed money. But there's a saying that empty vessels keep most noise. You know, we accuse our former Prime Minister of not talking. So we went ahead and we elected a Prime Minister that loved to talk, only to realize that it is just talk and flowery language. Empty vessels make the most noise. So in an attempt to embarrass the Democratic Labour Party, in an attempt to say to the people of Barbados that we were destroying the economy, destroying the moral fabric of this country, they proceeded to default on the international loans. They proceeded to default on the international loans. When the Democratic Labour Party demitted office on May 24th, 2018, we were paying our bills. All of our foreign debt were being paid. Whenever that money's come, interest and principal, when it is due, we paid it. So the Prime Minister, in her wisdom and surrounded by her high-paid consultants, voluntarily defaulted on Barbados debt and would not pay. I have something to say to you tonight, my friends. Every country, and listen to me carefully, every country that defaulted on its international debt and went to the IMF as Barbados did for a full program had a devaluation, whether it came early or it came late. I'm going to repeat it. Every country that defaulted on its international loans and went to the IMF for a full program had a devaluation, whether it came early or it came late. So when the Prime Minister says tough decisions must be made, and many of you have no knowledge of the clutches of the IMF, I am saying to you tonight, my friends, the lion is at our door. The bailiff has the handcuff. The bailiff, and I'm going to explain to you and read to you some numbers, because at every meeting I am going to speak about it, because Barbadians must know where we are. Barbadians must know where we are. Because we are playing on a platform of communication propaganda. We are playing on a platform of deceit and deception and lies and borrowed money. That is the platform that we are dancing on, and it is dangerous. Dangerous. Because we in Barbados, we do not have gold. We do not have silver. We do not have copper. We do not have sugar to export. We are an import country. We import. Barbados is import driven. We do not have oil, gas, natural resources. All we have is our people. So don't get caught up. That's why I said we're having a conversation. Don't get caught up because that we may have a nice home and fancy cars. If we get a devaluation, those assets are worth nothing. Because all we have is our people. So that's why I'm saying we're having this conversation. Don't get carried away because that we may have access to go and purchase a vehicle, or you may have 2 or 3 televisions in your house with the cable. We are at the crossroads, my friends. And I know what it is to live through a devaluation. I know what it is to get up one morning and see the vehicle or the real estate that you own that was worth $800,000 is now worth $200,000, and you have the sharks that come in from overseas wanting to take up your houses. The real estate sharks. I saw that in Trinidad. My grandmother and great-grands were Trinidadians. So I spent enough time in Trinidad. I was fortunate to travel to Trinidad very often as a youngster. And I was there when I saw the devaluation, when I saw the works of the IMF, so I can tell you about it. So I don't want us to get carried away. You know, I always repeat this. My father always said to me, he said, son, I have something to tell you. You are not going to find this in any Bible. You are not going to find it written in any book with philosophy. You are not going to find this in any history book. But he says, I want to tell you something. When you go to breakfast with the devil, don't expect to skip lunch. He says, when you go to breakfast with the devil, don't expect to skip lunch. I am going to give you some numbers. Conversation. This is the balance sheet of Barbados. This is the balance sheet that the government of Barbados has been hiding from the people of Barbados. This is the IMF balance sheet that the Prime Minister don't want to talk about. This is the IMF balance sheet as of November 30th, 2021 that Kevin Greenwich don't want you to know. This is the balance sheet that Clyde Maskell don't want you to know. This is the balance sheet that Avanas Prasad don't want you to know. This is the balance sheet that Ryan Strawn don't want you to know. This is the balance sheet that Marsha Cattle don't want you to know, my friends. This is the balance sheet that the Director of Finance and Planning, Mr. Ian Carrington, don't want you to know. This is the balance sheet that the Governor of the Central Bank don't want you to know. Well, I'm going to tell you what on this balance sheet. And let them come after me. Let them come after me. My friends, the government of Barbados went to the IMF. And if any of you want to take a picture of this with your cell phone to put it on social media, come. And I ask any of them to line up and say, Jepta, you are a liar. You get down in Lowlands and tell lies. I am ready. Come and meet the bulldog. I am saying to you that in 2018, the government of Barbados went to the IMF, and you have to know this, and borrowed $35 million. You just hear all kinds of figures about the IMF and making you believe that we are doing, you hear the IMF, oh, Barbados is doing well, but the IMF chief don't tell you the bind that we are in, the kind of monies that we have borrowed in less than 3 years, that your grandchildren and your children have been sold. I can tell you, 2018, 35 million. In 2019, 70 million. This is US dollars, you know. In 2020, you're going to jump. Those of you that are eating your food or drinking a cup of tea, please hold it for a minute because your stomach may turn. $166 million. $166 million in 2020. You know how much they borrowed in 2021 up to November 30th? $17 million. But I want you to remember, that is what I says, let us pause. Pause and reflect and think. That is what I said, we having a conversation. Because after November 30th, I want you to remember that they borrowed another 44 million US dollars. Now up to November 30th, that would have been 388 million US dollars. The equivalent of 776 million Barbados dollars. Come on, in 3 years, look around Barbados and tell me what on earth you see for 776 million Barbados dollars borrowed from the IMF. Look around Barbados and all we talking about is COVID. The 44 million, as you know, 2 Barbados dollars equals to 1 US is 88 million Barbados dollars. When you add the 776 to the 88, you get $864 million. 64 and 36 is 100. We are short of $136 million, making up $1 billion borrowed from the IMF. And the financial year ain't finished. They got to go to the IMF. That is why you see that the Prime Minister is courting China, because she wants to move away from the IMF, but it is not going to happen. The lion is at our door. So the financial year ends on March 31st, and the new financial year starts April 1st. That is why she is saying tough decisions have to be made. Now tell me, in God's good name, under the beautiful skies of Barbados, under the skies that our Lord and Savior have created, that are 166 square miles, a population of 370,000 people, that a small government within less than 3 years could borrow 864 million Barbados dollars. And we have another 136 million that is going to come, $1 billion from the IMF. I am saying to you that if drastic action is not taken and somebody don't pull the handbrake on the loose cannon behavior that we have for a leader and a cabinet, that the IMF is on the trail. They are going to take the stomach of Barbadians out with a dull razor. Hear what I tell you? You watch the interview with Sir Ronald Sanders. I would appeal to you all to go, please, when this meeting is finished, go on the internet or YouTube and pull up the interview that was recently done with Sir Ronald Sanders, a man who I have a lot of time for and respect, brilliant mind when it comes to finance and economics. And so Ronald said that in the next couple of months, there are going to be 2 Caribbean countries, there are 2 countries in the Caribbean that we are going to see drastic increase in taxes, massive layoffs, challenges with foreign reserves. And when you look, despite all the criticism, the Prime Minister of Antigua, Cranston Brown, says that he is not going to go to the IMF. And he was criticized in Antigua for it. He says he is not going. Look at what happened to Antigua today. Antigua is experiencing a 4% economic growth. And we are in the belly of the beast. He says no matter how tough it is, the same actions that Faridel, Jerome Stewart, and Chris Sinkler decide that they are not going to do, but they were crucified for it. But you had a Prime Minister who knew it all, who felt that she was brilliant, who was advised by a mass, surround herself by some of what we term the most brilliant minds. But we have the IMF now. The lion is at our door. And all that we have seen for the money paid to these high-priced consultants, these great economists, what have we seen? Nothing but ghosts, goblins, and witches.
Oh Lord!
That is what we have seen. We have seen nothing more than an Nebuchadnezzar and a Pharaoh. And the parents always say, you know, the old people remind us. They always remind us. You cannot run, and I repeat this over and over again because I say the conversation. They say that we cannot run. She says, look, you know your parents and grandparents always say to you that we cannot run with the hares and hunt with the hounds at the same time. So we now have a Barbados where a Prime Minister and her cabinet are running with the hares on the world stage, making us believe that the awards that she received is the first to happen. I want you to remember that Earl Walton Barrow, the right excellent Earl Walton Barrow, was voted Man of the Century. Come on. This 166 square miles, the late right excellent Earl Walton Barrow was voted ahead of the President of Russia, the President of the United States, the President, the Prime Minister of England, name it. He was voted worldwide as the Man of the Century. So what the awards that the Prime Minister is receiving that want us to believe that these were the first is nothing but nonsense. Prime Ministers get awards. So they ran with the hares and leave Barbadians to hunt with the hounds in hunger. That is what we are doing. So we are hunting with the hounds in hunger. That is what it is. So in an attempt to pacify, I call it pacify Barbadians, or to hoodwink, or to deceive them, they come with a manifesto pledge that said they are going to build 10,000 houses. Now I want us to think. A prime minister that promised the young people of this country in 2018 that they were going to deliver 5,000 house lots at $4 a square foot. You remember that? That they were going to give out lots at $4 a square foot, not a lot as of today. But you are going to come now, couldn't build 50 houses in 3 years, insult Barbadian artisans by importing the houses from China. And I'm going to speak to that because many of you would have seen my comments in the newspaper and on social media, and not one of them have came out and says, Jepta, you are a liar, or if the information that I gave to you about the Chinese houses was incorrect, they would have crucified me by now. They would have had the cutlass sharpened on both sides, and they would have come after me by now. But you can imagine that you couldn't build 50 houses for young people, couldn't deliver not one lot at $4, but you are saying to the young persons now, under the age of 35, that they are going to give you a $3,000 grant to help with your mortgage. Come on. You think you understand why I say that they expect to run this country on lies, deceit, deception, communication, propaganda, and borrowed money, the 5 basic principles? Come on. Many young people, when we start to work, we try to catch our breath, as people would say. Sometimes you try to get a little car. You try to save a little money at the credit union. And most of us normally will go for your mortgage when you reach 35 or 34. 35, a mortgage normally is 25 years. 35 plus 25 is 60. If you had parents that leave some land for you, if you had parents that leave a $50,000 or $100,000 for you, then you can go for your mortgage in your early 20s. You can do it. But Lord have mercy, you are saying to the young people, tell me how many young people are going to qualify for this nonsense. When you're trying to pay off for the land first, and you know that a comfortable house in Barbados today is $600,000. If you are talking about your dream home, it's $800,000. If you're talking about your dream home, and what we call a low-income home is $250,000, a simple 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath. So they are now coming and saying, oh, in addition to that, if you re-elect me, I am going to give 50,000. I smile. You can imagine a government is going to give 50,000 small home owners solar panels as well as repair the roofs for hurricane-resistant roof. You never heard this before? But this was in the 2018 manifesto, and all they did was to change the words and restructure the paragraph. Tell me 50,000 households to outfit a standard home with solar panels is about $20,000. And that is the reason why a lot of homes are not outfitted with solar panels, because it is very expensive. Come on, it is expensive, people, to outfit your home with the type of solar panels. So how are you going to give 50,000 small homeowners? There's something in Barbados called a small house in this day and age. Tell me, show me a small house. Show me a small house, what we call a lower income. And if you can show me a small house, a lower income house, this Chapter Inc. will take you down to Lexi's and show you Jesus and his disciples doing line dancing. Show me a small house. Nothing else but gimmicks in a manifesto. They said to people, that they are going to use Sam Lawrence Castle and allow Barbadians to invest in Sam Lawrence Castle and the land surrounding Sam Lawrence Castle. You know, it is important, as I said, it is important that you listen to the Prime Minister and her cabinet carefully. The Chinese are up there working on Sam Lawrence Castle, Chinese money. But what I have before me, you can imagine they are talking about investing in the lands around Sam Lawrence Castle. And on November 26, 2021, the same government put out what you call a request for proposals, a RFP, to sell the land. Look at this RFP. This is the same government that says they are going to sell 17.3 acres of land around Sam Lawrence Castle for a tourism development project. How are you going to sell the land around Sam Lawrence Castle? The Chinese are the ones that literally own Sam Lawrence Castle, but you are telling Bajans in the manifesto that you are going to allow them to invest in Sam Lawrence Castle. Come on. Important that you keep your notes, because the evening word of the Prime Minister don't add up to the morning words. So who in Barbados, tell me who small family that's struggling is going to be able to go and invest in the lands around Sam Lawrence Castle, when the lands around Sam Lawrence Castle, as far as my memory serves me, the land around Sam Lawrence Castle is about $75 a square foot. Come on. So I want to know, and these are the things that bothers me, when a leader of a country want Barbadians to believe that they, if re-elected, is going to build 10,000 homes in 5 years, but insult the artisans of this country, insult the masons, the carpenters, the electricians, the tilers, the painters, as well as the laborers that work on the house. They bought in 140 containers, 40-foot containers of houses from China. And I said it at Harlington, I said it at Messiah Street in St. John, I said it since the election was called, night after night, that the reason why that they cannot start those houses in earnest. Remember that the Minister of Housing said once the containers arrive, and that was late November, early December, that within 2 weeks, you are going to see a lot of activity with those houses. We are now in January, and they are running all over the place trying to get one house constructed. And you know why? Because the specification of the houses are incorrect. And I say to them, and you have seen me, you read it in the paper about my comments about those houses. And I says it is a scandal waiting to happen. It is a scandal. It is going to make hardwood housing look like chalk and cheese, oranges and apples. And I say to them, but I am waiting. I am waiting. I have nothing more to say. Because again, my father always said, my brother said, son, I want you to know, keeping your mouth shut doesn't mean you're stupid. And a patient man rides donkey. So I am riding donkey tonight because I am a patient man. But those houses, there's a lot more. But I am patient because I am waiting. And when you begin to read and understand, you are going to say, you know what? Well, Jack just spoke about this weeks ago. So I don't want you to be baffled when it comes to the Democratic Labour Party and meeting these challenges. Whenever this country, my friends, when the country is at a crossroad, it is the Democratic Labour Party in office who comes to the rescue of Barbadians. We were there in 1966 when we had the oil crisis between 1973 and 1976. It was the Democratic Labour Party. When the Barbados Labour Party took us to the IMF between 1981 and 1986, it was the Democratic Labour Party who took over the reins in 1986 and cleaned the mess up that was left at the time under the late Tom Adams. So we are accustomed to these challenges. And that is what I say. Remain silent. 30 seconds. And think. And think. The conversation. That is what the Barbados Labour Party handed Barbadians. And we were there. And we are going to be here for you come January the 19th. Come January the 19th, my friends. Vote for Dr. David Eswick. Come January the 19th, my friend. We cannot allow this loose cannon and callous and indifferent behavior, the disrespect for people by a leader. When you can look at a country and says, go to thy aunt, thou sluggard. You know at the time what Jesus was saying? When you can say, remove God and use the word creator, not knowing that we were using the word creator for the longest time. We are familiar with the word creator. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 1 said, remember now thy creator in the days of thy youth. Well, that is something that we all went through. And you're going to get a prime minister going to say to you, we got to use the word creator. Well, we were using the word creator from the time that Adam was a lad. Remember now thy creator in the days of thy youth, that when thou get old, you would not depart from it. So if you remove God, it means that you are tampering with my character. If you remove God from the charter of Barbados, it means you are tampering with my character, because the charter is part of my character. Come on, people, listen. And you ask why we have these challenges? And you want to remove God? Haiti, that was the first republic in 1804, did not make any changes to the national anthem. The United States, a republic in 1791, and in 1957, wrote on the US dollar, "In God we trust," approved by the President of the United States, and did not make any changes to the national anthem. And you have no Prime Minister of Barbados is going to tell you that we must remove that God have been the people guys for the past 300 years from our national anthem. And that is why I said, you go to breakfast with the devil, don't expect to skip lunch. My friends,
Lord.
on January the 19th, vote for Dr. David Eswick. A vote for Dr. David Eswick is a vote for consistency, stability, and efficiency in managing the affairs of this country. A vote for Dr. David Eswick is a vote for the Democratic Labour Party, and a vote for the Democratic Labour Party is a vote for the stability, it's a vote for the hemorrhage, to stop the hemorrhaging of the social fabric of Barbados. That is what a vote for the Democratic Labour Party is. So on January the 19th, with God's blessings, I want you to secure your homes. If you have a donkey, tie your donkey. If you have a mule, secure your mule. If you have your pigs in the backyard, secure them. Put up your dog. If your cat going to give trouble, wrap your cat safely and put it in the bag and carry it to the polling station. They can't stop you from voting. And vote for the Democratic Labour Party and Dr. David Eswick. My friends, we had a conversation. Thank you and good night. God bless. Take care.
Eswick is a real proper man. He was a man of his word. I went forward with it, you understand?
There's so much to say about David. Mr. Eswick looked up for the constituents in terms of providing employment for the youngsters.
The years he ran, he ended up doing some of my cricket team. He sponsored us for like 3 years or whatever. Every time he's been, he doubled the money. Or whatever, give us a party. He do a lot for children.
I'm glad he's back. He do a lot for us in Chapter Land St. Philip, and I appreciate what he did. He helped my daughter and my son at work. He helped my children, right? And I was glad for that.
I don't even see my current representative. I don't even know who representing us all right now.
St. John Kane and Power, we didn't see him at all.
Then Mr. Eswick was in. All it know Eswick out. I still been seeing Eswick around the community, learning and socializing with the constituents, giving advice.
David Eswick, always for me and the people of Barbados.
Always for you.
And I can let you know no straight too. He don't just say. He's a man of his word, and he always there for you. Day work.
Biggity. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Make way for the people's champ. The only ones in Philip West want. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. St. Philip people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Make way for the people's champ. The only ones in Philip West want. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. St. Philip people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs. He helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. Eswick always for you.
Good night to the warm people of St. Philip, especially the constituents of St. Philip West, and everyone within the sound of my voice. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to speak here tonight in Lowlands on some of the issues confronting the residents of St. Philip West and Barbadians in general. As we traverse St. Philip West and the island of Barbados, people are saying to us that despite the revamping of the NSRL, the reduction of the corporation taxes, the waivers in PAYE, land taxes, and other liabilities since May 2018. It's all right. Okay. Since May 2018, the people of St. Philip West and Barbados generally are saying that they have experienced increases in the cost of living and reduction and decreases in their standard of living. They have told us that they are experiencing severe hardship since May 2018, and it is not the kind of expectations that they believe would have been coming their way when they went to the polls and gave the Barbados Labour Party administration all 30 seats based on what was promised to the people of Barbados. The residents of St. Philip West and Barbados in general who have not received their severance payment are asking, when will they receive the severance payment? Will they receive it at all? They want to know. The people of St. Philip West and Barbados in general want to know, given the uncertainty that surrounds the tourism arrivals, the uncertainty surrounding the students at Ross University, the uncertainty in the marketplace generally, and the uncertainty of the economic conditions in Barbados. Barbadians want to know, when will they get an opportunity to earn a living again? Barbadians want to know, when will our young people be provided with jobs other than sweeping the road and picking up dust? They are saying to us that that is not what they're expected, and they are crying shame on this Barbados Labour Party administration for deceiving them. The unemployed in Barbados are asking, when they are no longer eligible to receive unemployment benefits, how will they be able to pay their mortgages? How will they be able to put food on their tables? How will they be able to make their car payments? And whether they will be able to put gasoline or diesel in their vehicles. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of St. Philip West and Barbadians all across this fair land of ours are asking, given the reduction in economic activity, what are the Barbados Labour Party plans for this country? My friends, ladies and gentlemen, people of St. Philip West and wider Barbados, I implore you not only to listen carefully to what the IMF, that is the International Monetary Fund, has to say in its Article 4 consultation report on Barbados, but I also encourage you to Google the Article 4 report on Barbados. According to this Article 4 consultation 6 review dated December, listen carefully, dated December of 2021, it says the authority will have to compensate this short-term fiscal accommodation with higher primary surpluses in the medium term to safeguard debt sustainability. The Article 4, according to the said report, says that to create fiscal space for investment in physical and human capital, transfers to state-owned entities needs to decline. Let me repeat. Transfers to state-owned entities need to decline. There must be cost reduction. There must be mergers and divestment, and we must have enhanced revenues. Listen carefully, people of Barbados and constituents of St. Michael West. The directors emphasize that medium-term fiscal consolidation should be supported by reform of the state-owned enterprises. They supported the authorities' plans to reduce transfers to the state-owned entities. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of St. Philip West, the people of Barbados want to know, will there be more borrowing from the IMF? Will there be increases in taxes and levies? The people of St. Philip West and Barbados in general are asking whether there will be any kind of pension reform in Barbados. The residents and citizens of Barbados want to know whether or not the age at which a person receives pension will increase. They also want to know whether non-contributory pensioners will continue to receive a pension. The people of Barbados want to know whether the percentage of income used to calculate pensions will be reduced. They also want to know whether there will be a cap regarding the maximum amount of money a pensioner would receive. The people of Barbados want to know if there is going to be any kind of pension reform and what kind of pension reform we're going to get, if you're going to get any. The people of Barbados are saying that they cannot afford to give anybody any vote and then wait to hear what happens later. The people of Barbados, they're saying that they do not want to be surprised by any haircuts to their investment in government paper. They are asking whether or not there will be increases in bus fares, whether or not there will be increases in our utility bills, whether or not there will be increases in land taxes, and whether the cost of living will increase generally. What the people of Barbados are saying to us is they cannot take any more increases in taxes. The people of Barbados, the people of St. Philip West, the people of Lowlands included, are asking whether they're going to be paid for their lands that were compulsorily acquired with any non-interest bearing bonds rather than cash. What they're asking as well, and what they're saying they're uncertain about, is what would be the maturity date of those bonds if that is to be the case. They're also asking whether, if there is a natural disaster, whether there will be a considerable period of time when they cannot even get the non-interest bearing bonds. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say to you that though legally, if you contract to pay a person $10 and then you pay them $10 without interest, essentially in law you would have paid them what you would have borrowed. And that is after some period of time. But ladies and gentlemen, in finance, there is a principle known as net present value. So essentially, if you borrowed or issue a piece of paper for $10 and at some future date you do not pay any interest on that financial instrument, essentially you are paying back to the persons you borrowed the money from less money than they would have given you because of the principle of net present value. The other thing that the people of Barbados want to know is what are the plans to deal with unemployment related issues. Issues like increases in robberies, domestic violence, homicides, and other aspects of criminality. The people of St. Philip West, and indeed the people of Barbados generally, want to know what are this government's plans to create jobs. In what industries, if they have any plans, would such jobs be created? And how many jobs do they plan to create? Barbadians are also asking whether we are going, listen carefully my people, whether we are going to continue to employ persons from other countries, that is artisans from other countries, by importing houses into our fair land when our artisans remain either unemployed or underemployed. The artisans of Barbados are saying to us that that is not what they're expected. They're saying to us that during the campaign of 2018, they were promised jobs, and the small contractors are saying that they have not received the kind of jobs that they were expecting. The people of Barbados want to know what is so important. What does our Prime Minister know that none of us knows? Why is it that our Prime Minister found it fit to call a snap election approximately 18 months before the election was constitutionally due? More importantly, the people of Barbados are asking us, why is it that our Prime Minister does not want an opposition? Why is it that our Prime Minister wants all 30 seats again? Now, all the questions that the people of Barbados are asking us, they want to know the answers to such questions before January 19th, 2022. They said they're not giving anybody any vote and then watching to see what happens later. The people of Barbados also want to know whether there will be any cuts to the staff complement of the state-owned entities. They also want to know what kind of changes there will be at the state-owned entities. Places like the National Housing Corporation, the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, the Sanitation Service Authority, the National Conservation Commission. They also want to know whether those persons employed at those corporations, whether there will be any cuts to their salary, and if there will be any cuts in terms of the number employed. Ladies and gentlemen, I say to you tonight that the people of Barbados are asking the electorate not to vote for the people, why would anyone ask the electorate not to vote for an opposition? And why would they want all 30 seats? Ladies and gentlemen, in this election, this poll on January 19, 2022, your choice is clear. You in St. Philip West, you know the kind of representation that Dr. David Eswick gave to you between 2003 and 2018. You know that Dr. David Eswick is knowledgeable, he's committed, he's dependable, he's reliable, he is the one for you. You also know that in voting for Dr. David Eswick and the Democratic Labour Party, you know that this nation of ours will be unified once again. It is our Prime Minister who said to us that our fair land is now divided. And you must ask the Barbados Labour Party candidates who divided this fair land of ours. And ladies and gentlemen, I must say to you tonight that yes, COVID is to be blamed for part of the economic conditions and the social circumstances facing Barbadians today. But it is not COVID, it is MAVID, it is Motley's administration vehemently implementing and injecting dislocation, disunity, and direct hardship on Barbadians. I say to you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, on the 19th of November, and constituents of St. Michael West, on the 19th of November, go to the polls, go early, go in your numbers, remember to social distance, and vote from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. the candidates of the Democratic Labour Party to bring restoration to this fair land of ours once again. We need a unified Barbados. Thank you, God bless, and good night.
Well, David Eswick is a very nice gentleman. He comes around and socializes with everyone, the young, the old, everybody he does socialize with.
I met David in 2007 when he was Minister of Economic Affairs. He gave me a grant, and honestly, I was very thankful.
David Eswick don't leave out people no matter what. I had a couple months there, my feet was hurting me, and my son called him, and David Eswick come right down by me and check my feet and told me I will get back to you. And he did get back to me, and he brings some medication for me, and look, right now we're walking good. I don't want a doctor no more, because he come and assist me. A very good man. Don't want a better person than him.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Biggity. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Make way for the people's champ, the only one St. Philip West want. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. St. Philip people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs. He helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. Eswick always for you. So F-U-C-K, tell she I say the best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Who's St. Philip Westwick? David Eswick.
I'm indeed rather energized today to be here in Windsor Road, starting my formal campaign on the ground. The interaction with the people was indeed extremely positive. And I feel very confident that once I get the opportunity to explain to the residents all over the constituency why it is that we need to make some radical changes and why it is that I'm going to ask them to repose confidence in me when the election is finally determined after the 19th. I want to give them the full assurance that I will protect their interests and I continue to work hard and diligently on their behalf. But you know, the branch is fully mobilized, and we are going to continue this canvassing exercise every single day until that particular day when the votes are being counted. On January the 19th, I want you to come out to your numbers. I want you to come out to your numbers because Barbados is at the crossroads. We are going down the wrong path. But I came out of Budlam Baptist Church and Sister P Church. And I am not God. I believe in God and I can put God first in what I do. That's why I'm on the job. Rest assured of that.
David Eswick. He was always my representative and he will be my representative until he says different.
Yeah, I know David Eswick to be a very good man. I met him personally and the conversations we had really showed me that he's a man that's willing to do for anybody that can help bring up the South the same way. You understand?
Yes, he's always for the constituents and he's always for all. He's very vibrant and again you can talk to him, you can get assistance from him. He's good for the constituency, for Barbados and for all.
He used to always look out for the people. Like anytime you get to read, he would never say no. That's one thing for sure I know as growing up. His energy is just a vibe. And I will always vote for you though. And it's always for you, David, always.
I know David for a long time, man. David always around every shop corner, Breton, Sunbury, even 6 Rose, or Ebenezer. I never left you out. Give you anything at all. You can't be hungry when Mr. Eswick.
David is a proper man. He's good and he always around the fellows. And he was ever a proper man to the fellows in the constituency.
Every time he lets you come, David are retired. David are retired. David are retired. David are retired.
I know David from the time he was born. He has always been very progressive, knowledgeable, and caring. I, Keith Allen, is always for you, David.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. David Eswick. Always for you, David Eswick. Jesus.
Eswick is a real proper man. He was a man for his word. I went forward with it, you understand?
There's so much to say about David. Mr. Eswick looked out for the constituents in terms of providing employment for the youngsters.
The years he ran, he ended up doing some of my cricket team. He sponsored us for like 3 years or whatever. Every time he's been, he doubled the money or whatever, give us a party. He do a lot for children.
I'm glad he's back. He do a lot for us in Chapter Land St. Philip. And I appreciate what he did. He helped my daughter with my son at work. He helped my children. Right? And I was glad for that.
I don't even see my current representative. I don't even know who representing us all right now.
St. John Kane and Powell, we didn't see him at all.
Then Mr. Eswick was in. All I know, Eswick, I still been seeing Eswick around the community, learning and socializing with the constituents, giving advice.
David Eswick, always for me and the people of Barbados.
Always for you.
And I can let you know no straight too. He don't just say. He's a man of his word and he always there for you. Day work.
Biggity. The best pick is Eswick. people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. St. Philip people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs. He helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. Eswick always for you. So F-U-C-K, tell she I say the best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick.
The Dr. David Eswick is on his way. He says to be patient with him. He went out in the field doing a lot of canvassing because of the shortness of the election. You have to do things in a speedily fashion, or as I say, a campaign in earnest. So normally where you would have certain hours to campaign, you have to go now full throttle and then go and speak at one or two. Sometimes you accommodate one or two things at the office in dealing with it. So he is on his way. He said to me to talk a little bit. I spoke for almost well over near 2 hours. But what I would say to you is be patient. He is going to be here. He should be here maybe in another 5 to 10 minutes or so. And because he wants to speak to the people of this area and leave a message for them, ask for your support. It is important that we ask for that support. The support is necessary if we are going to win this election, if we are going to do what we want to do for the people of Barbados. So every vote counts. Whenever we schedule a meeting, we don't want to cancel and say, well, we can't make it. He is running behind time. We are normally, what I must say is that for every meeting we have been running a good schedule, a tight schedule, but a good schedule. And it is just one of these nights where we tend to have a time lag. But be as it may, he is on his way. I just spoke to him, and he says that he is on the road. And I said to him, don't hustle on the road, because sometimes I always say, if you are late, you cannot be early. But if you are early, there's a possibility that you can be late. If you're early, there's a possibility that you can be late. So we look forward to what he has to say. He would address the issues of economic management and housing. He would also look at the issue of the pension plans, what is happening with the pensions in Barbados, because that is a concern. It also concerns me, because when we look at, when you are involved in something, I don't walk around bragging and putting these things on Facebook, but I was the first investment manager for the National Insurance Fund. And I came home in December, the 15th of December 1996. It is a story that I'm going to tell at some point in time. And when we speak of sacrifice, I was a young investment banker in Wall Street. And at the time I came back to Barbados, and I was doing a little exercise in the evening. Put my bags down, as I always do whenever I travel and return home. For some reason, it is a habit I have, no matter what, even if it is certain hours in the night. I put my bags in the house, put on a short pants and a shirt, and I go and exercise. It is a habit. And George Griffith, who I have a lot of time for, saw me jogging. It was late in the evening, coming on to dark. And I told him I now flew in from New York, and it is part of my habit. He said to me, he was trying to contact me. The Prime Minister wanted my resume. To this day, I have never spoken to Owen Arthur about a job. But he told me the Prime Minister want my resume and he wanted tomorrow morning by 6:30 that he was going to call me even if I was overseas. I got that resume to George Griffith. And I called my grandmother, who I asked for advice, and she said to me, son, she would call me Master Jeter. She said, Master Jeter, I tell her what I was told, what the Prime Minister, and I plan to go back to Wall Street to the investment bank. And she said to me, son, serve your country. And put down the phone. Normally she would talk to me. She said, son, go and serve your country. Sometimes sacrifice in life is important. I leave a job in Wall Street as a young investment banker that was paying me $3,000 a week. I'm going to repeat it. I leave a job, and the views, I leave a job that was paying me $3,000 a week and came to Barbados, the first investment manager for the NIS, and worked for $4,952 a month. This jet the ends. When people talk about sacrifice for country, I could have easily stayed in North America, buy a house in Jersey, Long Island, or Rhode Island, on an acre or a half, have my gates, drive my fancy car. But when I look at what was needed for Barbados and the opportunity to be part of that development, the 15th of December 1996, I took up the post as investment manager, finance officer. There was no investment department, none, which means I was the Lone Ranger, but I could not have done it alone. I had the help of Sir Henry Ford, who was chairman of the board, a man who I respect, have ultimate respect for, a man who I have a lot of time for. And Sir Henry, along with the late Stephen Allen, Sir Roy Trotman, Joseph Goddard, Dennis Clark, Grantley Smith, who was then Director of Finance and Planning, the Prime Minister Owen Arthur in the Ministry of Finance. And when we look at the assets of the NIS had $797 million in assets, mostly cash and treasury bills, had little or no real estate, had absolutely no investment overseas, no major investments in the Caribbean. And when I was asked by the board, Jeter, what do you want to do for the NIS? I said, sir, with your help and the board help, working together as a team, I would like to have this NIS fund, National Insurance Fund, the Severance Fund, the Unemployment Fund, and the Sugar Workers Fund, to at least approximately $3 billion in 5 years. I sat down, and on Saturday nights when people are going to the theater or going to Sheraton Center, I used to be in the NIS office as the single person in the investment unit, writing guidelines, checking the investments, both Saturday and Sunday. Some Sundays I eat my lunch, and when 7 and 8 o'clock on Sunday nights, I am in the NIS office. And we built that fund to $2.5 billion in 5 years. We built the UN building. That UN building, the committee sat down, the board sat down with myself, and that building, they had plans to build that building, and 14 years passed. And I could remember the Prime Minister Owen Arthur called me and said, Jeter, in typical Owen style, we have to get something done. To build the UN building up there in Hastings, I came to office and I found that it should not happen. And I said, sir, give me a chance. Myself, Dennison, and the board, again with Sir Henry as chairman, we put up that building against criticism because many persons in Barbados didn't understand the type of investment strategy that I was undertaking. And we put that UN building up, $28.2 million, came in on time and within budget, and within budget we saved $262,000 on that building. Kofi Annan came from the UN to open that building, and that is where he made the remark that Barbados is a country that punches above its weight. when he saw that UN building. Couldn't believe it. And we bought it in on time. Apart from that, we took on Trinidad, and that's why I said they had the experience. Trinidad had a devaluation, 1996, 1997. And despite all the oil and gas that Trinidad had, the financial institutions worldwide would not look at Trinidad. And again, I approached Sir Henry and says, look, this is an investment opportunity. And Sir Henry reviewed it with the board. He says, Jet, we have to do a proper evaluation. Let us look at the risk. And this little Barbados, 166 square miles, we gave Trinidad and bond financing to help take the gun of the IMF from the Trinidadians' head. We gave Trinidad $39 million in bond financing. Back in 1997, 39 million was what you would call maybe $1.5 billion today. We gave them $39 million in bond financing because the NIS could do loans. And Trinidad, and that money helped stabilize the economy of Trinidad. I sat with the Trinidadians, the young men like myself at the time, who were involved in investment banking, and I can call the names. You now have Lyndon Giuseppe, who is head of Belize Bank, managing director. He was with me as a youngster in the investment industry. You have Ian Chen, who is now the senior man at Ansa McCall. You have Ryan Proudfoot, Harry Hospitalis, who was president of Citibank at the time. And we all sat at the Copox Hotel around the savannah in Trinidad, next to the savannah in Trinidad, and formulated a plan to help Trinidad, $39 million. And not only did we stop there, we also helped the government of Belize. Back then, Belize have challenges, and they were thinking about going to the IMF. And again, with the same chairman, his insight, and asked, what can we do for Belize? Prime Minister Arthur says, somewhere along the line, because Belize was requesting a small amount of money. Belize was requesting, the money that Belize was requesting, we could have afforded it when I did my analysis out of the NIS fund. And we in bond financing again, because the NIS laws would not allow you to do loans. And we did $9 million in financing to Belize and took the gun of the IMF from Belize head. This little Barbados. And that is why Belize is so thankful for Barbados today. Because back in 1997, 1998, I was the investment manager, finance officer. And we assisted Belize $9 million out of the NIS fund. So, you don't have to walk around and broadcast. When Elsa struck, it isn't by accident that Louslet, the St. Lucian Electricity Company, said that they would assist Barbados. Back then, when there were no, as I would call it, developing the capital, placing electricity through St. Lucia, we wrote the Prime Minister. I approached the Prime Minister, approached the chairman of the board. We worked together because I couldn't do it alone. There are some people who make you believe, oh, I did this. No. Had not for the assistance of the chairman and the board of directors and the foresight of the persons, we said we were going to help Louslet in St. Lucia. The NIS in Barbados invested heavily in equipment, poles and engines, name it, generators in Louslet in St. Lucia, and help Louslet to become what it is today. And that is why when you see we had problems with ELSA, the company, the St. Lucia Electricity Company, says that they would assist Barbados with anything. That didn't happen overnight. But there's a lot more that I'm going to say, because I'm going to speak to that money that was in Trinidad. That if we had the foresight, and as a result, of some decisions that were made, because the Trinidadians wanted us to keep that 39 million US in Trinidad and invest with them in the developing the oil and gas industry. We did not do it. We did not do it. We bought home the $39 million in assets. This sovereign fund that Trinidad wanted us to be part of is now worth 2.5 billion US dollars. And Barbados is not part of it. And they said to us, we are going to partner with you and develop what we're supposed to develop. That is what Trinidad at the time, because they were coming through the Caribbean. And again, Sir Henry Ford in his foresight, he said, Jet, I think the best thing we can do is allow this 39 million US dollars to stay in Trinidad, develop, be part of the oil and gas industry and the real estate industry and the whole idea of the dry goods, the supermarkets. How do you think Massey became so huge? And some decisions were made in Barbados back then. And as I tell you, the sovereign fund in Trinidad, you are not supposed to invest in anything in your country. That was the plan. We would have gone through the Caribbean with Trinidad and invest the monies. And decisions were made to bring it back to Barbados. And today, as I said, the Trinidadians' sovereign fund, in which we are not part of, is worth 2.5 billion US. So sometimes that is within it with a nutshell of what the NIS is all about. So I understand the NIS clearly. And from an employee, from finance officer to investment manager, I became the youngest chairman of the board. Without doubt. I was then elevated to chairman of the board. And we wrote the guidelines, so I can tell you how the NIS was structured. And it was the biggest mistake when this government decided that they were going to restructure the debt and tampered with the NIS and cut the NIS assets by $1.5 billion. You asking for trouble. And we allowed the White Oak to come in here and paid White Oak $66 million to do what? Just to tell you how to reduce interest rates and to extend it. And took $1.5 billion out of the NIS. And that NIS is hemorrhaging today. We made, and I said that is mistake number one. And mistake number two was when Tom Adams, as Prime Minister, moved the non-contributory pensioners from the consolidated fund and carried them to the NIS fund. So we moved thousands of non-contributory pensioners and placed them into the NIS fund and paid them a pension, and these persons did not contribute anything. And that was the biggest mistake when we went to the IMF under Tom Adams to cut expenditure. My friends, I have here my colleague, my longtime friend, a man who I walk with. I think we walked the long, I think the doctor will remember. One day we walked, if you know of Chapel, we walked from Chapel to St. Catherine's Club. when he ran for St. Philip North, we parked the car in Chapel, and the doc said, Jack, let me walk, and we realized we in Bayfield. And then he said, in typical Eswick style, I said, Doc, we got to catch the bus. He said, Jack, to catch bus, let me drink 2 beers, eat some fish cake, and walk back to Church Village. Ladies and gentlemen, he has arrived, Dr. David Eswick. Marcy.
Oh, yeah. Biggity. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. The best pick is Eswick. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. St. Philip people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. In transport and one.
Let me say a pleasant good evening to the residents of Lowlands. I've decided to come and have a chat with you for a few minutes because I believe that there are two critical issues that needs to be discussed for you to understand some potential risks that you are going to face within the next few months if we allow the approach used by the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, to become established in Barbados, and you find yourself with significant challenges regarding your pensions, significant challenges with respect to inflation in Barbados, rising prices, significant challenges in regards to your capacity to take care of yourself, because the recommendations that are coming before you are recommendations where this government will have to do the following things. One, it will have to increase the age that you can qualify for a pension. That is within the Article 4 report of the IMF, as well as the recommendations coming out of the most recent actuarial report between 2015 and 2018. In addition to that, the report indicates that you will expect also to have not only to have to work longer to qualify for a pension, you will now have to be qualified for a smaller pension, and you will also have a situation where the contributions from every single employee and employer will increase to the national insurance. And additionally, what will happen once that occurs is that there's going to be a major threat to the survival of the National Insurance Fund. Everything I just said to you, you can read for yourself. Just go and pull up the latest actuarial report between 2015 and 2018. And you all would know that COVID-19 affected Barbados in 2020. So at that point in time, the report did not have the devastating blows that the national insurance took, which occurred, and where there were 40,000 Barbadians unemployed at a particular point in time when the actuarial report indicates that all of these things have to be done. So once you add in the impact from COVID, we are going to face some very difficult challenges that you need to understand. Let's appreciate where this all started. It all started when the government decided that it was going to restructure the national debt. I was the one in 2012 that told my own colleagues in cabinet that we could not get out of the economic hole that we were in unless we executed a debt restructuring program. But what this administration did was to apply the debt restructuring program in the wrong way. When I realized that 70% of the debt that you have to restructure is domestic debt, it means that if you were to restructure the domestic debt, Barbados will have to take significant losses. And that is why the NIS took $1.6 billion in losses. That means $1.6 billion in cash that the NIS does not have access to. Also, the credit unions were hit. The insurance companies were hit. The banks were hit. And in addition to that, all the pension funds in this country. What you need to understand is this. It got so bad that after COVID, the unemployment fund ran out of money. It got so bad, the severance payments fund ran out of money. The government had to go and borrow $125 million from the central bank and went and borrowed $267 million on the international market to recapitalize those, all because they took the decision to cut $1.6 billion in assets that the NIS should have gotten those monies in terms of investment returns, cash payments. Now let me tell you this. If you are already struggling on a day-to-day basis to make ends meet, and you have to face further cuts in regards to your pension, and you have to now face greater challenges in regards to increasing your contributions and working longer hours, you already saw that we had to increase under the former Prime Minister, the late Prime Minister Oenatha, the pensionable age moved from 65 to 67. If the recommendations in the actuarial report is borne out, you want to tell me that Barbadians now have to work to 70 or 75 to qualify for a pension? And you're going to qualify for a pension at a lower rate of pension at a time when the cost of living is skyrocketing on a day-to-day basis? How are you going to survive? I see this as a very important matter for you to appreciate that this is not for me a matter of BLP and DLP issues. This is a matter about what is going to happen to you once those decisions are taken. I will explain to you how the situation can be resolved, because I am not going to be here to tell you what is wrong without giving you a plausible solution to the problem. But it's necessary for me to engage you and explain the problem in the beginning. I don't have to tell you every day you go to the supermarket, prices going up. I don't have to tell you that. You know it. I was in Marshfield today, through the train road, and a lady reported to me when she would buy rice, a big bag for $20-something. She said she bought it last month, went back within a matter of 8 days, it was $32 for the same bag of rice. And we have a government that says there's nothing that they can do, when in fact there are many things that they can do. And let me give you an example of what I mean. It is basic arithmetic and common sense. Every single product that comes into Barbados arrives at the port of entry, and it has what is known as a landed price. That landed price is known as the cost, insurance, and freight price. The critical point is that there is a price at the port before any duties, taxes are put on, whether it's VAT, excise tax, etc. It is that price that I am going to tell you, if that price goes up, and we assume that a product comes in at $5 this month, And next month, that price increases to $15. And that is before you put on VAT, excise tax, and duties. What the government needs to do is, if the increase is $10 for the product, reduce the VAT, excise tax, and duties by $10 so that the product coming out of the port would come out with a price that they would have had before. That is basic arithmetic and common sense. What you need to do is to evolve that into a mechanism that can be triggered every time we have a recession, a problem in Barbados with inflation. And I am proposing, therefore, a solution. That is what I will do if I am given the opportunity to represent your interests. I will establish a national cost of living committee. That committee will be made up of the Private Sector Association, the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the government. That committee will select a basket of goods that are inflation or price sensitive. So in that basket of goods, you would have items imported that the average Barbadians use every single day. That committee in discussion will determine the maximum price that should go on those items when they land at the port. And if those prices go up to a certain level, then the government entry or trigger the government mechanism I just spoke to you about. So the basket of goods may contain 50 items. But every one of them, as soon as the price gets to a particular threshold, that would trigger the government saying, no, this price can't go up anymore. And whatever the increment is, we will deal with that by decreasing the input tax on it in regards to whether it's excise tax, VAT, and duties, so that the price passes through flat. The losses that government would make in revenue, the way to resolve that problem is very simple. The losses that the government would make in revenue, government can borrow those monies from the central bank. The central bank is the bank of the government and the people. And all of those borrowings can stay at the central bank for the next 5,000 years. And we can determine the interest rate to be charged on it. That is how you can solve and mitigate the inflation problem and price rising that is affecting you on a day-to-day basis. And in regards to the matter of the damage to the national insurance, I do not know if these guys understood what they did. I'm going to quote from the actuarial report and the Article 4 consultation from the IMF. It said the NIS lost $1.6 billion in asset value, equivalent to 26% of its reserves. 1.6 billion because of the action of the government. They took a choice. They did not have to do that. This loss has threatened the viability of the national insurance scheme and its capacity to meet future pensions and obligations in the very near future without urgent, listen to this here, without urgent recapitalization, how can the government recapitalize the NIS fund if the government estimates document for 2021-22 shows the government spending $800 million more than they collected in revenue? Where are you going to get the money from? Where is they going to get the money from? And that is the reason why an election had to be called, and that's why the Prime Minister spoke about all the harsh measures to come, because the harsh measures are going to be increased taxation on you. The measures are going to be cut back on further government support, and those supports are classical IMF: cut pensions, cut wages, cut salaries, send more people from statutory corporations, increase bus fares, increase, it got to the point where there's nothing that wasn't increased. From paying for barrels at the port, clearing of barrels from the post office, and I'm going to go through a list on these matters very soon and deal with these matters on a website that I am going to ask all of you to go and look at what I am saying so you can understand for yourself, because I can't delineate every single thing in a matter of 25 or 30 minutes. But let me go on. This is what I said. This should frighten you. This is not David Esmond saying this. This is what the report said. It said, in fact, the operating balance of the NIS becomes negative by 2028, 6 years from now. By taking away the $1.6 billion from the NIS cash position, what this government did is put the NIS in a position where in the report, the NIS has a negative operating balance by 2028. I am sure we're in 2022, 6 years from now. So if it has no capacity for revenue to capitalize the NIS, where do you get the money from? Where do you get the money from? You tell me. This is not a BLP, DLP matter. This is about your future. And you have to understand the facts as they are. Look, the report went on, man. I said additionally, prior to the debt restructuring, the entire reserves of the NIS, would have been exhausted by 2050. Now those reserves, by 2059, sorry. And after debt restructuring, the NIS reserves will be exhausted by 2049. Those people who work it and expect to get a pension in 20, 25 years, you got a problem. Where are they going to get the money from if they're already spending $800 million more than the collected revenue? They're going to borrow it. There's a serious matter we play around with here, man. And that is why the actuarial report said clearly, you're going to have to work longer. You're going to have to take lower pensions. You will have to end up in a situation where you have to make greater and longer contributions to the NIS. That was a decision that they took, a choice that they took. And I'm telling you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it was the wrong choice. But I am saying this to you now. The $1 million question is this: how in 30 years' time the NIS is going to get back the $1.6 billion if they don't borrow it? You got COVID on, massive unemployment, significant reduction in contributions because of unemployment. So where is the money going to come from to secure your pension and your future? Where will it come from? I want to say this to you. That this is how I would have handled that situation. I had the fortune of being chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors to the government. I had the fortune of being chairman of the Economic Committee of the Cabinet. I had the fortune of being the chairman of the investment committees of the Cabinet. And I also had the opportunity to have been the spokesperson of finance matters since 2005. Coming out of that knowledge and experience, I would be going to all the central bank meetings with the IMF in my capacity as Minister of Economic Planning and Development and chairman of those committees I just spoke to you about. So what I'm going to tell you is fact, because I am too old to come out here and tell foolish lies about anything. I am telling you that after the debt restructuring, the NIS incorporated and is still incorporating a major threat to its viability as a result of COVID. The solution I'm going to proffer to you needs to work this way. The government would ask the NIS to lend it some money. How is that done? It is done by the government putting out to the private sector a treasury bond, which may be a medium-term bond, which we call a treasury note, and a long-term bond or debenture or bills. The nomenclature is not important. What you need to know is that it is money that the government borrowing for the NIS, your money. When the government borrows that money from the NIS expects to have a return on that money. Because that's the only way they can make profit for the pay-as-you-go system that we have, or what we call the defined contribution system that we have, that they can have the pension enough to cover future persons when they retire. They should not have cut the $1.6 billion and leave the NIS without $1.6 billion in assets and cash payments that they should have gotten. The way I would have handled that is that I would have asked the NIS to issue a bond and ask the central bank to purchase that bond so that the NIS will get the money, the $1.6 billion back in their coffers, and the government, the debt is now held by the central bank, and it can be held there for the next 20 years if it's a debenture, and the central bank can resell that bond to the private sector over time as required. There was no rational reason to decimate the NIS in the way that it was decimated when there were alternatives to manage those affairs. I am confident in what I am telling you. And I know they're going to hear somebody retarding somewhere telling you what I speak saying is not true. Nonsense! When the government just had to issue a bond for $125 million and the private sector didn't take it up, it was the central bank that bought the bond. It is our bank It belongs to you and me. And it should be used to help us out of these problems, not decimate poor people and create problems for the future of our children. And all I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a serious matter, not of any other making than the government. And if you are comfortable with that, I ain't comfortable with that. Because I know enough of my friends and family out there who will have a problem. I just told you what the report said. I just told you what the IMF Article 4 consultation said. Those are not my words. Those are the words of the experts. All I'm doing is saying to them, fellas, hold on. There is a way to use our central bank in a structured way to help us out of these holes, and we can manage those internally. Remember this, huh? Remember this. The central bank is not a commercial bank. If you want some money today, you can go to your commercial bank, like Barclays. Barclays is more First Caribbean, First Citizens, Scotia, Republic. And when you go to them, you borrow some money. They will tell you what interest rate they're going to lend you the money at. And they're going to tell you the 5-year, 10-year loan, etc., etc. A central bank does not operate like that. And all we had to do was to issue a note, a medium to long-term note, and hold that debt at the central bank until the economy improves. And the central bank could then resell that particular bond to the private sector. It's done all over the world, ladies and gentlemen. All over the world. And any of the puppets that will come and challenge me, I got about 500 examples in my back pocket waiting for you. But I got to tell you this. What this NIS issue uncovered is a bigger problem that I want to discuss with you for about 5-10 minutes. This bigger problem has to do with what is known as demographics. All it really means is this. Barbados, as we know, is an aging population. The over 65 age group is growing rapidly. But the under 40 age group is declining. So the productive age group is declining because the Barbados birth rate, or what we call the fertility rate, should be 2.1. In other words, it's common sense. It's like a man and a woman to have a child. That's 2, make 1. So the only way you can get back to is for them to have 2 children. So to increase a population, you have to have more than 2. A rate of growth of more than 2. In fact, the actual rate is 2.15. You know what Barbados is? 0.68. Oh Lord! 0.68. So, what is happening is this. We are creating and have evolved a population where we don't have enough young people to take care of the old people going forward. So if that's the case, then where the pension money going to come from if the younger cohorts of people who are coming into work declining and the number of people who depend on pensions increasing? But it's common sense. So, that has been unearthed. And what is incredible is that the number in regards to NIS challenges is getting worse. Let me show you what I'm talking about, man. In 1952, I didn't born yet. The population growth rate was 2.01. By 2021, it dropped to 0.68. I just mentioned that. By 2030, it falls from 0.68 to 0.16. I hope you understand what I'm saying. And by 2035, it is going to be minus 0.33. We're in trouble. We cannot sustain pensions in Barbados. So what the government in fact did, without realizing, was that they unearthed a deeper problem in Barbados with respect to future pension risk going forward. So when they cut out the $1.6 billion out of the NIS assets, it unearthed a bigger problem, which is a serious problem for this country. When you have a rapidly declining population and a rapidly aging population, and you have a low birth rate, you got a problem. The viability of your pension scheme that depends on young people to produce and pay contributions to the NAS, those are going downhill. And the people who depend on their monies coming in by contributions, the older people going uphill. We got a problem, fellas. And when I read that report, when I left the QEH hospital in 1997, I then became the doctor at the geriatric hospital and became the senior doctor at the geriatric hospital for 10 years. So I know about the aging population in Barbados. Because I have first-hand experience as a physician dealing with these matters. And anytime at all you got a position in a country where there's a rapid growth of the over 65 population, while the under 20 age group declines, my lord, your pension scheme therefore is at risk. And I couldn't understand how a government with access to the information that I am giving to you could go and take out $1.6 billion out of the asset base of the NIS and cash battle it. To the point where by 2028, it cannot maintain its operating balances. Man, this is madness, man. This is madness. Look, let me take a few minutes because it's late in the night and I don't want to get into any deep matters of economics and how having older persons population growing and younger populations and the younger age cohorts declining, how that affects the capacity of an economy to grow. But it's basic common sense. The old people don't spend money like young people. They live off their pensions, they live on their assets, and from time to time they may go sell off an asset or two. The young people ain't got assets. The young people working every day trying to get something. So you're the people who go buy the cars. Those are the people who go buy the houses. Buy all the things for the children. And take care of them. So they are the people who spend in the economy. So if the younger age group is declining, therefore your economic activity will decline as well. This is a serious issue. And it will compromise the capacity of this country to be able to deal with its economic fortunes if this continues. And I'm going to tell you this evening that there is a solution to this. The solution to this is to recognize what I am telling you regarding the retirement crisis and the worsening dependency ratio in the country. Now, the way I would handle that is this. I would have gone and bought $263 million overseas. I would have done that. You do not borrow foreign currency to spend locally. You use local Barbadian dollars to spend locally. Foreign exchange that is borrowed should be used to pay foreign debt, and it should be used to bring in imports in the country. These people don't know what they're doing. And got about 6 or 7 consultants that all of them is as ignorant as Miss Carter's cat next door. Borrowing foreign currency for domestic activity that leads to consumption is an idiotic policy. If you borrow foreign currency, you have to use it to create an asset that generates foreign currency. Anyway, you're destroying yourself. It puts them pressure upon your tourism sector that is now decimated, and we know how long it will be decimated for. So where the foreign currency can come from? Where COVID got everything shut down. These people are lost. The blind leading the blind. Look, let me tell you what the solution should be. If it is that the age cohort between age 20 and 40 that is doing the production and creating pensions, monies by a contribution for the older people, and they don't have the assets to help drive the economic activity apart from their spending, well then what we're going to do is take the tax pressure off of the over 60 years group. We have to free up the larger population that is growing and reduce the tax structure on the over 60 so that they can now spend more efficiently and help drive the economic growth and activity in the country. That's what needs to happen. And the way I am proposing to do this are as follows. Remember, when the former Prime Minister Owen Arthur, my friend, increased the NIS pension threshold from 65 to 67, what he also did was remove and increase what was called the early retirement age from age 55 to age 60. But what they did is that every year you take early retirement up to the threshold of 67 years, you lose 6%. So if you take early retirement at age 60, you will lose 42% of your pension. And if you now have a situation where the actuarial reports and the IMF reports are saying you now have to increase the number of years to rate to qualify for pension, it's 67 already. Is it going to be 65, 70, 75, 80? I don't know. But if that is the case, every year you are going to lose 6%. I therefore propose that to free up those older persons in this country from this, what we should do is introduce a plethora of tax relief structures for you. They would be from land tax. There will be an elimination of that 6% penalty. And I will be asking the Democratic Labour Party to put these measures in place in your interest. And what we will also, I'll be asking them to do is, apart from dealing with that 6%, what we will also, I'll be asking them to do is to make sure that we look very closely at giving you breaks in regards to house repairs. I walk around and people tell me, boss, from my pension I can't repair the house. I can't change the roof. I gotta go and borrow and this and that. One of the measures that I'll be asking the party to do is to make sure that at least there's 125% tax write-off for specific home improvements for people over the age of 60. So as to give you a relief, you will now have two. One from the damage done by the early pension reduction of your pension by 6% up to 67. And if you're going to work longer, it may go up to 69, 70, 71, I don't know. What I will also then say to you is that the measures that I will be asking the party to introduce in regards to land tax relief, if you want this, I have no issue. And I think the Prime Minister came out in the budget and said, in the manifesto, and said, she wanted to promote young people owning homes. I ain't got a problem with that. She decided that she would give them a grant of $3,000 so they can pay the legal fees. But I just tell you, that is all fine. But that age cohort is declining. It is the over 60 age group that is increasing. We have to give you the release so that you can spend money and drive the economy. The economy can't be driven by a declining group of people. So I sometimes don't understand the logic of what it is they're trying to achieve apart from playing cheap politics. I am talking about a structural change to our fiscal tax system so as to ensure that you have a sustained way of driving the economy as the older population continues to grow and give you a capacity to increase your consumption and your investment opportunities in Barbados. That is what should be done, and that is what I am going to be asking the Democratic Labour Party to very seriously put on this agenda for you. What I would also end on, given that we have a time frame for 10 o'clock, and I want to thank the officers for giving me a couple extra minutes beyond 10. It's 10 and gone already. But what I'm talking about is an economic structural change, recognizing the demographics of the country so that you can now help to sustain its growth and development. The only way it can be done is by freeing up the capacity of the older people to spend, because they're the ones that got the money. The older people who have investments, they're the ones that have the money. They're the ones who carry land tax and all the other things. Free them up. Let them be the persons to drive and go to restaurants. Change your car, change the roof of your house. Free them up. But what was you doing? Catching at dealing with young people, which I don't have a problem with. Help the young people to get a house. And if you want to help them with $3,000 in legal fees, I ain't got no problem with that. But that does not affect or solve the structural problem that I have just described to you. What I am trying to suggest to you is a resolution of the structural problem that has been presented by the aging population in Barbados, a demographic change that has occurred and will continue and get worse. So I am putting systems in place to counter that for the long term on an economic basis to drive the economy of this country by consumption and investment. This is serious matters we're dealing with here. And all I can say to you, ladies and gentlemen, the other two ways that this matter can be dealt with are, one, by immigration. Owen Arthur understood what he was doing, because when Owen Arthur opened the door for young Guyanese to come into Barbados to work in the agriculture sector, what Owen was doing, and he gave them NIS cards, what Owen Arthur was doing, recognizing that the younger age cohort in Barbados was declining, he was increasing that cohort by bringing in young people from Guyana to work in Barbados and pay NIS. But then other puppets don't know the clue what was going on. Owen Arthur was right. So therefore, if we don't use immigration to help us there, the only other way is to free up the older persons who have the money and who have the assets and the population going to help drive the economy and keep the economy going. I know those who listen to me will know what I'm saying makes sense. It is known as developmental or demographic economics. And if they want me to teach them about it, let them come to school. So, the ball residents of Lowlands, the ball will be in your court. You have a decision to make. I have tried tonight to deal with two critical issues that I know affect the residents in this area. I was told so. The two critical issues are how we will deal with the inflation and rising prices that is crippling you on a day-to-day basis. And the other one is how we are going to allow you to have a future where a pension can be secured, and to ensure that there are efficient fiscal tax measures that will allow you to be able to increase your consumption and to be able to manage that capacity via freeing up a number of the tax measures that you are now having to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and increasing, if I may say so, even the people who over $75,000, the land tax went up, your water bill went up by $45 a day, sewage tax, 40 cents per litre on gasoline, 40 cents per litre on diesel, 40 cents per litre or 50 on kerosene. You then increase bus fares. You then stop there. For people who depend on imports from the family overseas, you drop taxes on the barrels. You drop taxes on the collection from post offices. And you, feeling all of that, and the IMF is saying this government got to stop borrowing money. Read the Article 4 Constitution, don't listen to me. And this government has to now start collecting more money for services. And this government has to start reducing expenditure on statutory corporations. What that means is sending home people and increasing services that they provide, costs for the services that they provide. And then they indicated that they're going to stop borrowing. So if you can't borrow, then government has to cut this expenditure or raise taxes in order to continue the services that they provide. This is where we are at. And all of their fancy talk and promises can't solve the problems like this described for you. Because for the last 3.5 to 4 years, they were the architect of the problem prior to COVID. And when COVID came, it just made matters worse. And with a declining economy, they made a grave and monumental economic error. That economic error is this: you don't borrow foreign currency to spend on domestic consumption. If I gonna spend money in Barbados dollars, I am going to get money in Barbados dollars to spend, because I know that I will be reducing pressure on the tourism sector that has to generate the foreign exchange. The strategy of borrowing money to protect the balance of payments and protect the net international reserves, I will support that. But I will have a problem when you borrow money for overseas to pay wages and salaries. So, I will have a website up in a matter of 2 to 3 days, where I will have all these matters properly defined out with bullet points. And I'm going to be able to direct you to that website, where you will be able to see all of the economic blunders and the solutions that I am proffering to you. And not only the solutions, the policies that are defined by the solutions and the implementation strategy to achieve it, so that you can always say that I told you A and I didn't tell you how to do it. You know that's what they're going to say. Now I'll be telling you exactly how to do it. And that is why for me, at my age now, I'm not getting into this BLP, DLP or whatever. I am thinking about Barbados and a future of Barbados. And that is why you have not heard me say one thing apart from sticking to what should be discussed in your interest. And that is therefore what I intend to do for the balance of this campaign. But I would want you, therefore, when I send that data regarding the website, I will have about 8 different presentations that cover all of the critical areas that are challenged in this economy and how we can resolve them to make a better Barbados for ourselves and our children and for our future. So, ladies and gentlemen, all I can ask you to do for me is to follow the information. And I am confident that when you do this, you will realize that I am not a person who come to you to talk idle and to play politics with the future of this country, because I ain't left him about here. And my children building a life out here like your children. And what sort of human being I could be after I describe all the experiences I've had, that I should not stand up as a man and say, this is not the way to do it. It can be done this way, that way, that way, that way. And put it out there for you to then decide what it is you want to do. I can only therefore ask you to give me that support and let me bring these things to fruition in your regard. And I therefore end by saying this to you. There are no Bajan Chinese. There are no Bajan Indians. There are no Bajan white men. they're the Bajan black men. We have one Barbados. And all of my politics must wrap Barbados as one. Wrap the flag around amongst all Barbadians. Therefore, any premise of economic development that I will bring to you will not be a divisive one. It is going to be one that is inclusive. One that seeks to move the entire country forward. Rich and poor. Christian, Jew, Muslim, and all religions in a wonderful harmony of tolerance. The ball will be in your court, and I want to say good night to you. 10 o'clock is gone, and the police has given me enough leeway. Thank you, good night, and everybody have a wonderful evening, and God bless.
Lord. The best pick is S-Way. The best pick is S-Way. The best pick is S-Way. Tell me who's the best.
S-Way is a real proper man. He was a man to his word. I went forward with it, you understand?
There's so much to say about David. Mr. Eswick looked up for the constituents in terms of providing employment for the youngsters.
The years he ran, he ended up doing some of my cricket team. He sponsored us for like 3 years or whatever. Every time he been, he doubled the money or whatever, give us a party. He do a lot for children.
I'm glad he's back. He do a lot for us in Chapter Land St. Philip, and I appreciate what he did. He helped my daughter and my son at work. He helped my children, right? And I was glad for that.
I don't even see my current representative. I don't even know who representing us all right now.
St. John came and forward, we didn't see him at all.
Then Mr. Eswick was in. All I know, Eswick, I still been seeing Eswick around the community, learning and socializing with the constituents, giving advice.
David Eswick, always for me and the people of Barbados.
Always for you.
And I can let you know no straight too. He don't just say. He's a man of his word, and he always there for you. Day work.
David Eswick, he was always my representative, and he will be my representative until he says different.
Yeah, I know David Eswick to be a very good man. I met him personally, and the conversations we had really showed me that he's a man that's willing to do for anybody that can help bring up the self the same way. You understand?
Yes, he's always for the constituents, and he's always for I. He's very vibrant, and again, you can talk to him, you can get assistance from him. He's good for the constituency, for Barbados, and for all.
He used to always look out for the people. Like anytime you get to read, he would never say no. That's one thing for sure I know as growing up. His energy is just a vibe, and I will always vote for you though. And it's always for you, David, always.
I know David for a long time, man. David always around every shop corner, Breton, Sunbury, even 6 Rose, Ebenezer. Eswick never left you out. Give you anything at all. You can't be hungry when Mr. Eswick.
David is a proper man. He's good and he offers around the fellows. And he was ever a proper man to the fellows in the Constituency.
Every time he lets you come, David are retired. David are retired. David are retired. David are retired.
I know David from the time he was born. He has always been very progressive, knowledgeable, and caring. I, Keith Allen, is always for you, David.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Always for you.
Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. Always for you. David Eswick. Always for you, David Eswick. Jesus.
The best pick is S-Way. The best people's champ, the only one St. Philip West want. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. St. Philip people know this is true. Eswick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David Eswick. In transport and water, agriculture,